beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and today we are going to be unboxing all of the new single shadows that are coming from Odin's Eye. We have a whole lot to get into here. This box contains all 42 new shades, plus both of their new magnetic palettes, which everything just happens to fit perfectly into. And I want to try to give you as much information as I possibly can. So I'm going to show you a close-up look at all of these shades. I'm going to show you how they fit into the palette. I'm going to show you live swatches of the new shades, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of comparisons as well. So I'm going to try to be as exhaustive as possible. First, I just want to point out these two new empty palettes. These are the Dream Glass storage containers. There's a 12 pan, which is the smaller one, and then the 30 pan, which is the larger one. The 12 size, so the Dream Glass 12 colors storage container is $6.90, and then the larger one is $8.90. These are incredibly good prices for these, in my opinion, especially just based on how pretty they are. They have mirrors. This is a steal of a deal. This is definitely something I'm going to be purchasing some multiples of because you know me, I love a build your own palette moment. Then we have four different finishes in the actual eyeshadows themselves. There are 12 mattes, 12 shimmers, and 18 multichromes. All of these things, the new single shadows and the new empty palettes, are launching on May 2nd at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there's going to be some different times depending on what time zone you're in. I would recommend just giving that a quick Google if you're not sure where you are. The 12 matte shades will be $5.60 a piece. The 12 shimmer shades will be $6.90 a piece. And then the 18 multichrome shades will be $14.90 each. And you will be able to use affiliate codes, discount codes on all of these new items. I have an affiliate code. It's just my first name, Amanda. If you find this video helpful, useful, entertaining, informative, then I would definitely appreciate anybody who chooses to use my affiliate code. There are a lot of great creators out here who have affiliate codes. If you're not going to use mine, please use one of theirs because it really helps out our channels a lot. And I can speak for my peers when I say we really appreciate it for anybody who does take the time to support our different social media channels that way. So thank you to everybody who's out there supporting their favorite creators, even if it's not me. I really appreciate it. I decided to separate my shadows sort of by finish and sort of by color. So because I have a smaller empty palette that holds 12 and there are 12 mattes, I put all the mattes together. That way is just easier for me to group them into the swatches. So here's a look at my little all matte palette being put together. I love a good palette building video. I will say that the small palette is a bit of a tighter squeeze to get all 12 shadows in there versus the bigger palette, which I felt like everything just slid into place a little bit easier. Could just be me though, may just be one of those fluke things from the shadows that I chose and, it's not like it was impossible. You can see here they fit in beautifully. Here are the shade names. Feel free to pause and take a screenshot. I'm also going to put the shade names on the screen as I live swatch. Just a note about these live swatches. I'm not using any primer or moisturizer or anything on my arm. This is just straight dipping my finger into the shadow. And I may go back and sort of smooth over each swatch like you see me doing here, but I'm not going in for multiple dips into the pan, if that makes sense. I'm just picking up some shadow. I may smooth it out a little bit to try to make the swatch look prettier and more even. And I also like doing that because I can feel the texture and how it blends. I really like these particular matte shadow formulas. I think they are very consistent with what we've seen in palettes from Odin's Eye before. They have that very silky, almost slippy kind of matte feeling that I really enjoy. While these are quite pigmented, as you can see, they're nice and bright and pretty opaque as far as that first swipe type of application goes, but they're not very dry, so they don't have a lot of that crumbly fallout type of feeling that some super pigmented mattes do have. I like those type of shadows too, but I do think that this particular texture is a bit easier for people to work with across the board. I'm so glad that they decided to do matte shadows with this new drop of singles because I love Odin's Eye mattes. They're some of my favorite mattes on the market right now. So I'm happy to have some of these singles in my collection. I hope that we'll get even more. I feel like 12 is not enough. I would love to see some more neutral shades. I would love to see some cool tones. I would love to see just more variety. These are beautiful. I love this as a start, but I just am already chomping at the bit for more shades. Now let's move on to the shimmers and multi-chromes. I'm going to make note in the description box of a whole bunch of information, honestly, but I will indicate which shades are just the shimmers and which shades are the multichromes. And you'll be able to tell on the website too. They are labeled pretty clearly, and obviously the price difference is really going to tip you off. Even within these shimmers, and particularly within the multi-chrome shades, there are some variety of textures, and mainly some of these multi-chrome shades have that super squishy emollient feeling to them that some of these more multi-chrome special shades can have. It's very similar to almost like a super shock texture. I'm sure if you have dipped into a couple of indie shadows in your life, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think those are very apparent in the swatches as well, but I'll try to point that out along the way as well. That does make it difficult to give an across the board review as far as formula goes. And a lot of this really boils down to personal preference as well. Some people are going to love the drier shimmers and they're going to hate these really squishy foiled type of shades like Scarlett. I think you can tell is one of those. So I think it's partially just what do you prefer and what works the best for you. As I get older, I have more of an issue with my shadows creasing and fading over time. And unfortunately, that means that these super thick, squishy foil type of shades that I personally really like, I'm really drawn towards, they don't necessarily perform as well for me. This last one in the swatch, Elara, is another one of those. However, a few years ago, they would have been my top picks out of this whole selection. So it really is such a personal experience and personal preference type of thing. And definitely take that into account that the things that I love may not be the things you love, and vice versa. I don't really care that much if my shadows crease and fade over time. I am still drawn to the shiny, shiny sparklies, and I just can't resist. I'm like a crow. So I will admit they don't stick around as long, but I also kind of don't care. And maybe you do care, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that either one of us is wrong. We just may have our priorities set a little bit differently. And that is 100% okay. You know what else is okay? This dark purple shade on the end of this swatch row. I love this color. It's definitely one of my favorites in the entire bunch. Now we're moving on to the middle row of shadows. This is where I have a lot of the pinks, peaches, reds, and I also have the two more silvery shades kind of tacked on in the end there because I just needed a place to put them. I will be comparing these two red shades called Loki and Theo to the famous Odin's Eye Red Single Shadow Leon. That is later on in the video in the comparison portion. I know a lot of people want to see that one in particular, so that is definitely included. Just stick around through to the comparisons and I will get that ready for you. I'm going to take a short voicing over break because I have been talking for over 10 minutes at this point and we still got a long way to go. So I'm going to play some cute little background music for a minute while you watch these incredibly satisfying, super shiny swatches. And then I will be back to talk at you some more in just a little bit. Don't you worry. The comparisons that I'm doing today are not exhaustive, meaning I didn't do every possible color comparison that I probably could have. I did have to stop myself at some point because I did want to actually be able to finish filming and editing and release this video. But I also didn't really scrounge up a comparison swatch for every single one of these 42 shades. And I did multiple comparisons for some of the shades. I really just went with my gut and I let my memory of what stood out guide me. There were certain things that I knew right away. For example, the shade Sangre from Terra Moons in the mattes comparison. I knew right away that I wanted to go and seek out and find that specific shade for a comparison. Others, I was more kind of searching, especially for these first two rounds of comparisons, which are really those shifty multi-chromes with translucent base. I went through a bunch of my specifically lethal shadows because I know I have a lot of shades like that. And I really tried my best to give you as many good comparisons as possible. I know there are probably things in here that you're wishing that I did. I can do more comparisons. I could take requests over on my Instagram. I'm not sure how best to do it, but I think we got a pretty good jumping off point here. And this can be helpful to keep you from purchasing multiples of very similar shades, or it can help you see the differences. Maybe there are two things that you thought were really similar and they ended up not being quite the same. Maybe there is one of those one that got away shadows that has been just sitting there bothering you with its FOMO, and now you can find something similar or maybe something you like even better from this Odin's Eye collection. So hopefully this really helps you make a good, solid purchasing decision either way. Maybe it will convince you to dig out your Soulmane 2 palette, which is where some of these shadows came from. I will again put in the description box where the comparison shades are from. Some of these are lethal, some of them are Terra Moon, some of them are Cleona, some of them are old Odin's eyeshadows. So there's quite a mix in here. And like I said, I will try to do some more specific requested comparisons if there's anything you're really dying to know. Or maybe if you just ask in the comments, I can let you know whether I even have that shadow, whether I don't think they're similar at all. Who knows? I will do my best to give you as much information as I possibly can so that you can be happy ultimately with what you decide to purchase. That is it for comparisons. You can see the famous Leon shadow here. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you now have a great list of which shadows you think are going to best suit you, your style, your preferences, your personal collection. I would love to hear what you think about this release. Do you plan on buying anything? Do any of these really, really stand out to you? I would love to hear what you think about this release. I always love to hear what you think about things too. So make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. I love your face. Okay, bye-bye.